everybody. So I'm so excited. We are here to talk about the latest Marvel film, Black Panther. And my friend Trevor is here to talk about it with me.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, and so we've now been doing this for over a year, so that's pretty exciting. A year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, it's first star of Doctor Strange, I believe.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And if you guys haven't listened to any of those, you should. They're really good. I'm really proud of them. So, but now we're going to talk about Black Panther. It's the 18th film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, is it 18 already?
18, yeah. Can you believe it?
I know. Wow. If you didn't think about it, you'd say, oh, maybe 12, something like that.
Yeah.
But no, 18. I guess there's a couple, like 3 a year nowadays.
Yeah, like last year, there was 3 last year. So you forget about some of them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Most years we've had 2, and they've been going at it since 2008. So,
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. But anyway, let's talk about the history of Black Panther a little bit. In the comics and things like that. What can you tell us a little bit about how it originated?
Yeah, so he didn't actually start in his own series. He was a guest star, a character in the Fantastic Four in the mid-60s.
Okay.
So I think it was Fantastic Four number 52. So the idea was Black Panther invited the Fantastic Four to Wakanda. They did the classic heroes meet, heroes fight, then heroes team up to save the day against a larger foe kind of thing. But it sort of introduced the world of Wakanda, and then he became a bit of a recurring character. Eventually joined the Avengers a couple of years later and became a regular in the Avengers.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't until early 70s that he actually had his own series. And there was one of those, it was an interesting story where it was in a title called Jungle Action, but the first couple of issues were just reprints of old 50s sort of white people jungle adventure kind of deal. And the guy who was proofreading it at the time was like, this is really dated. This is really crap stuff. Why don't we have something better? So Marvel's like, sure, you just do something with Black Panther. Only restriction is it has to be set in Africa. Do whatever you want. And he sort of created this big 12-issue epic, which 12 issues at the time was, for one story, was unheard of. Usually stories were no longer than maybe 2, 3. So most of them were like done in one. So it was like a huge deal at the time, and it was created this cult classic story, which introduced Eric Killmonger and a whole bunch of other characters and sort of expanded the world of Wakanda and all the concepts. And then he followed that up with a very controversial story where Black Panther took on the Ku Klux Klan. Which Marvel got a bit nervous about, and the story never actually ended up being finished. But yeah, and so then sort of mid-70s, he had another series for a short period of time when Jack Kirby came back from being at a stint at DC. Did a 12-issue, very different, very Kirby-like, very sort of ignored all the stuff that previously happened. But still interesting in its sort of high adventure, sort of crazy Kirby ideas. And then he after that, it was a bit of a quiet period again, where he was sort of just, in the Avengers a little bit, the occasional guest star in other people's series. But then the guy who originally did the 70s stuff came back and did a short stint. And then the 90s, he was pretty much quiet until Marvel had this resurgence of like creativity in, say, the late 90s, which was a result of their bankruptcy. And part of this is that like had all these more sort of mature ideas, but sort of more not mature. Sometimes in the 90s, mature meant it was violent and like Batman versus Superman kind of juvenile. But they sort of went down another path where they was like, creativity wise, it was quite good, and sort of it was less thinking about the gimmicks of the 90s and thinking about good story, good art, that kind of thing. And it came out of that was another Black Panther series by a guy named Christopher Priest, who sort of introduced a whole bunch of new ideas and new characters, and characters like Everett Ross came out of that, and Nakia and Okoya and characters like that. And every now and then Black Panther gets a new series, and it usually lasts about 30 to 50 issues at a time. And currently is got his own series, which is being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates from The Atlantic, which was a pretty big deal at the time when it was announced. And it launched very strongly as well. And it's been a very interesting sort of philosophical kind of series, thinking about how a nation works, but also leadership and the struggle between that and heroes. And that's the kind of stories that he's had a lot of lately.
Yeah, these are the ones I've been reading.
Interesting.
And
And
then this one.
Oh, cool. So that's like some more of the current stuff and recent stuff, especially like Ta-Nehisi Coates. And then he's brought a lot of people like Roxane Gay and Yonda Harvey, I believe, into the world of Wakanda, and it sort of expanded the whole characters and the concepts as well. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I really like it, and I like I don't know. I just think the imagery is really cool.
Oh yeah, they've had some fantastic artists in there too. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I haven't gotten super far, but I've really been enjoying what I've read so far.
Oh, cool.
I haven't finished them yet, but I'm enjoying it. Got a good little. I'm lucky. I have a good little comic book store that's just in the town next to me. Over.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So they're pretty nice. So it works out good. But yeah. So the Black Panther, he was a character that was kind of a niche character. Sounds like that.
Yeah, so he was sort of like he was one of those characters that sort of with every appearances it would sort of gain popularity, but like especially in the 60s he was sort of a secondary character or a guest star.
Right. Okay, cool. That's really interesting to me. So I want to talk a little bit. I don't think in any of these we've really talked that much about Civil War, Captain America Civil War. What did you, because that's of course where the character was introduced. What did you think of that film? What did you like it? Not like it?
I liked it. It was an interesting take on the whole Civil War idea. I do get a bit fatigued when it's heroes fighting heroes because they sort of did that a lot at one stage in the comics, and because of also Batman vs Superman, it can be done well and it can be done poorly. I think they hit the right notes because there was a reason for the fights, the whole sort of conflict. There was a reason, and there was sort of the debate behind it as well, which made it interesting, where it wasn't just, punching and kicking each other because, I don't know, for the sake of it. But I enjoyed it. And it's a good way to set up Black Panther as well through that movie, so you can sort of get on with it when it comes to his actual movie himself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was nice. They kind of got the origin story of Spider-Man and Black Panther kind of out of the way. They did
definitely.
A little setup here, but not much, which was nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it means you can hit the ground running, really, and it's sort of. I reckon the movie definitely benefited from that.
Definitely, and I think that just getting that little taste of him in that movie is part of the reason why this did so well. It made people excited.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You want to know more about this character, and so you're going to see the movie.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman, because pretty much almost everyone I know left Batman v Superman saying, "Oh, Wonder Woman was the best part."
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so it made you kind of, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with her in her own movie, especially with a good director. At the helm for once.
Oh yeah, she was definitely the best part of that movie.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so one thing I wondered about, what is Cap's shield made out of? It's showing my. Is it made out of vibranium?
It's made out of vibranium.
Okay, how did they get the vibranium?
I don't think it's ever been explained. From what I can tell, they probably just had it. I mean, it could be one of those things where they've explained it like 20 years ago, and it's just I've never read it or ever heard of it. But
in Age of Ultron, they are trying to find more vibranium. Is that right? Or stop them from finding vibranium? Or why were they meeting the Claw guy in Age of Ultron? I can't even remember.
It would be about the vibranium, I guess, because he had like in the movie it's explained, but he like 20 years ago he stole a whole bunch of it.
Oh, so they're trying to get it from him?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or stop
It's
him
been a while since it's been a while since I've seen Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron's like this. In some ways, I feel bad for Joss Whedon because it really is kind of like this like connecting bolt that so many other movies needed, but it still had to be kind of its own movie. It's a really tricky thing.
And plus, you have to follow up from the Fantastic First movie,
right?
So it's one of those things. It was almost death by committee.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Your overall thoughts about this movie? Did you like it? Not like it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a good mix of action and sort of metaphor, and sort of kept me on my toes. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I try and go pretty low expectations into the Marvel movies, and it's a bit harder for this one because there was a lot of hype, and I did see it like a week after most people. It seems like, but no, I really enjoyed it, and I came out of it wondering what they're going to do for a second movie. I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. My only real flaw with the movie is that there's a portion we'll talk about where T'Challa, Black Panther, is gone. He's presumed dead, and that thought got a little bit slow. I missed him in the movie. Missed his movie. It just started to get a little exposition heavy and a little bit slow. But then I thought it kind of ended strong. And so I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good movie and had an interesting thing to say. So I liked that. Interesting conflict. We get a little history of the vibranium at the beginning. That it was created from this meteorite. And that it made this sort of radioactive flowers, for lack of a better word, that have the power to turn someone into the Black Panther.
Yeah.
And I guess they are just super disciplined, and they only used it for this one person to become the Black Panther. Right?
Yeah, it was it's like very ceremonial kind of as well. So you have to sort of earn the right.
Yeah. And they have ways of turning off the Black Panther's powers, which is
so it seemed like they didn't really explain what it is, but it's just like obviously some kind of, it might be derived from the herb itself as well, but yeah, it's something to turn it off. Yeah,
that was interesting. Yeah, and so we also get this backstory about the history of Wakanda. So they're kind of setting it up that you have T'Chaka, and I'm going to say at the very beginning of this podcast, I am so sorry. I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. I apologize. I'm going to try my best. But so the king, he has a brother.
Yeah.
That is in Chicago?
I think it was Oakland.
Oakland. He has a brother that's been doing, what are they spying on? What are they trying to find?
I think it was to try and find the vibrant. No, it wasn't. I think I can't remember. Maybe it was a Coming to America kind of situation. Who knows?
Yeah, well, he definitely comes to America because he ends up having this relationship and having a kid and everything. And so the king ends up confronting him because he has these sort of revolutionary ideas about Wakanda. And I don't know, what did you think of this whole sort of introduction?
Yeah, well, I wasn't quite sure to start with because it sort of didn't, well, I was going to say it doesn't connect, but it does connect. But it's sort of, you require more information later on, I guess, sort of to piece it all together. But I found it interesting. It was sort of set the story up a bit and sort of, it also expanded the T'Chaka character a little bit in a way as well, because obviously he died in Civil War, so it's hard to sort of expand and say, at least you got to do a flashback or something, and it's sort of, in a way, he's the Uncle Ben. of this movie.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Like I don't know. I guess for people that like hated sort of let's sit down Wonder Woman and we're gonna read a book about our history. Like people who hated that kind of thing, then this is probably more preferable.
Yeah.
But it was maybe I was just a little bit confused sometimes about the vibranium part of it and what some people were doing. But
Yeah.
I didn't really care that much. It worked. I think it was to provide really clear motivation for our two characters,
Oh yeah.
and really explain sort of the basic motivation for the whole movie. The conflict for the movie is all about Wakanda, and that starts with these two brothers way back before our lead character comes into play. And so you have you have T'Chaka ends up killing the brother in
Yeah.
self-defense, basically, but still. And of course, the brother's son is just like left there because I guess they just want to kind of pretend like it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
Then we get up to sort of modern time, and you see that the you see Claw,
Yeah.
and that he's been like this black market dealer of vibranium, and then you see Claw and as Eric
And
Killmonger.
Eric Killmonger, yeah.
Yeah, that they are in this museum, and they stage this. They find out there's this axe or kind of type of device in the museum, and they're going to steal it because it's vibranium. And this kind of, I think, starts, to me at least, I think this was a pretty violent Marvel movie. Like, if it were me, I would not take like 8 and under. I wouldn't take to this movie. I think it definitely earns its PG-13.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's there's bit of violence, bit of swearing. Probably wouldn't take a young child to this now.
Yeah. And so, there's this pretty violent scene getting this this axe, and they're basically thugs. These guys,
Mm.
you know.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're not. It's a smash and grab almost, really.
Mm, yeah. And so then we get back to sort of to T'Challa, Black Panther, and he's trying to have to kind of figure out how to rule in his father's stead. And there's like a ton of characters in this movie. So basically, there's him, and then his kind of girlfriend, Nakia.
Nakia, yep.
Yeah, played by Lupita Nyong'o. And then his mother, played by Angela Bassett, who's Ramonda.
Yeah.
And then you have Shuri, who is his sister, played by Letitia Wright. And she is like kind of the technological wizard, brainiac of this family. And she's using the vibranium to create all of these cool like devices and other things, and I don't know. What did you think about some of these characters?
Yeah, I liked the fact that Shuri was like she was great, but she's really had some good funny moments. But I like the fact that she was like the whiz kid kind of idea. In the comics, it's sort of a matter of T'Challa is sort of a bit of everything. He's also, he's a genius. I think he's meant to be like the third smartest person in the Marvel universe. But I think it's sort of, you've already got enough geniuses in the Marvel movies. So the idea to sort of, especially in a hero role, you got you got Iron Man, you got the Hulk. By having her take that role instead, I think it sort of separates them a bit as not having another hero genius, but someone who can this still has the genius element involved.
she's more like innocent than Tony. You know, like she's more.
Yeah,
She's not as as
I
doesn't
don't.
have the ego that Tony has for sure.
Yeah, I don't see it as like her having a story where it's like like Bruce Banner or Tony Stark would, where
Hmm.
their science goes wrong in a ethical manner. You know, there's no ethics questions involved with the decisions. Where like for her,
Yeah,
but like yeah, like you know, she won't be creating Ultron anytime soon.
right. You have Wakabi that is played by Daniel Kaluuya, and he's kind
Yep.
of T'Challa's like best friend.
Yeah, I'd say like yeah, it was like a friend kind of. I
Hmm.
reckon he would have grown up with him or something like that. It sounds like.
Yeah, and Ao played by Dora Milaje, I think is her name, and she was a really interesting character too because she's one of those characters that's like fiercely loyal to her country over the kingdom, and you'll see that later on
Mm.
how their loyalties are kind of tested. So yeah, you've got all these characters, and you also you have Claw and Eric
Played by
Killmonger
Andy.
that are meeting up that end up in South Korea.
Yeah, South Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, and they end up getting like caught by Martin Freeman's character.
Oh yeah, Everett Ross. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's kind of a whole scene with that. There's all this, firefighting and whatever, and he's like super injured, but they end up taking him to they end up taking Ross to back to Wakanda, and so he's sort of the lone sort of white man character outside of Claw in the movie.
I
And
found it quite interesting. Like yeah, with Andy Serkis, I didn't recognize him because I'm just so used to him being CG
yeah,
motion captured. Yeah.
I know, I know. Yeah, what did you think of having Claw back?
It made sense because Claw is like the main villain for Black Panther. It was part
Oh,
of it, tied into the origin, at least in the comics, and so it was the recurring villain. He's sort of always the go-to villain when it came to Black Panther, followed by Killmonger.
mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and he tells Claude tells Ross that this is just a front, like it's fake. They're not really a third world country, and so you get some kind of interesting dynamic between all of them.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's sort of great because you haven't seen a lot of Wakanda at this stage yet. We've seen bits and
Mm-hmm.
pieces, but it's sort of just expanded a bit more as well. So
Yeah.
because it is this interesting Wakanda's this interesting mix of tribal and high tech, which I quite like the idea of because it's all that technology is also very much influenced by the tribal and African art and culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sort of establishes the beginning, at least, relationship between Claw and Killmonger, and then Ross and T'Challa, and that comes into play a little bit later. And you have this back in Wakanda, you have this ritual that they do to determine who is the best person to be king,
Yep.
and basically it's like they like wrestle basically, but they're both without the black powder, the Black Panther vibranium flower.
Yep.
And I don't know, what did you think of that? Did you like that?
Yeah, I like that because in the comics you might explain it a bit better, but it's sort of you have to do years of study, and then sort of it even though it's like a hereditary thing being king, you still have to earn your place, which I quite like the idea of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you have to do years of study and then have win in a feat of strength before you can earn the right to be king and take the heart shaped herb and all that kind of thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
like that. I like that idea of because it makes it a bit more interesting. Otherwise, it's like okay, your father's dead, you're king now. Is done to death. And so having it like where you have at least a level of earning the place makes it
Mm-hmm.
a bit more interesting. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was uh I thought maybe they spent a little too long on it, especially since we had it happen twice. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting, and it was something different, so I liked it. I thought it was good,
Oh, cool.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's kind of weird in this like sort of elevated land that they would still be so sort of semi-barbaric in something like this. You know, like you think that they would be sort of wanting more sort of something at least a closer to sort of democratic, you know, kind of a thing. But it worked. It was fine.
Well, I guess it's a matter of because they've intentionally kept themselves isolated. Maybe that's why so the culture's been allowed to gestate and not evolve over years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, so once you have T'Challa as king, then then you get to have Eric Killmonger, who he becomes Killmonger through becoming like a special ops kind of guy, and he ends up killing Claw. And I think you're right. I think that that Andy Serkis had a lot of fun. He's not in the movie that much, but it was nice to see him playing an actual character, not a stop motion,
Oh
not
yeah,
a motion capture character.
he's become the go-to guy for motion capture.
Yeah, he's the best at it. That's why him
Yeah.
and Toby Kebbell are like the pros. And so anyway, basically what you end up having is this dynamic between Eric Killmonger and T'Challa, where you have one that believes in protecting Wakanda and believes in, you know, isolating and keeping up this charade, I guess, this thing in order to protect the vibranium so that people don't use it for evil, and also to, you know, to protect and isolate the Wakandans. But then you have Eric Killmonger played by Michael B. Jordan, and he believes that Wakanda should be a source of light and kind of truth to all the world and be out doing good and helping people that are oppressed in the big city or in other nations or whatever, and that they have been kind of disgraceful in hiding.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
because it's sort of like one of those things where you could almost side with the villain and say, well, maybe, you know, maybe he's right, maybe or maybe he's wrong. You know, it's sort of, you know, there's no clear cut. It's not black and white.
Yeah, I think that's what is interesting, because he certainly has a valid point of view. I think what often happens with really good villains is they have like a kernel of truth in there, and then they take it to this like dark place. And that's what makes them especially manipulative. I mean, I think that's the case here, because he has that truth, you know, that they should be helping others and they should be, but then he takes it to this place of, well, since we're better, we need to conquer others, and we need to, you know, and so that's where he becomes toxic. And, you know, you can see that in other good, you know, good villains, in people like the Joker, or, you know, people like that have kernels of truth in there, but then they of how they understand human nature or how they understand people, but then they take it to this dark place. And I think you either, like with a comic book character, you either have to be just like so sniveling and so evil and fun, or you have to be interesting. Otherwise, you're just kind of boring.
Oh yeah, definitely. Otherwise, it just feels bland.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Thor 2, there's a good example of that, Thor Dark World, where the Malekith is just, I'm going to be evil for the sake of evil, you know. And that's where he fell flat, is because he didn't have any, you know, interesting motivation or anything like that. It's just, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah. And he wasn't like a fun enough bad guy to be like a bad guy, you know, like, I think that a lot of times those like sniveling bad guys work best in like fairy tales, like a Maleficent, or, you know, someone like that is fun to me, at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I reckon it only works also if they are like a small part of the movie, and like they end up being like a punching bag, maybe even.
I mean, I think that Hela was pretty close to that in Thor Ragnarok. You know, just sort of the sniveling bad, you know, and she wasn't used that much, so I think it works.
Yeah, and she was well performed as well,
Yeah.
which elevated her above everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think that she's on maybe as good as Maleficent, but it kind of had that little bit of that feel in the
Yeah.
performance. So yeah, I loved Eric Killmonger in this movie, partly because I'm going to be totally rude with you. I thought Michael B. Jordan was so hot in this movie. I loved everything about him. He was so gorgeous, and I mean Chadwick Boseman was pretty good looking as well. But oh, I even loved the way his hair was. I was just like, oh man, because and I'm really shallow, so like that'll go a long way with
Well, I
my
reckon
from this movie.
I like Michael B. Jordan too, but probably for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think
He's
yeah,
a great actor.
he's a great actor. He's very charismatic as
He
well in the
is.
way he plays his characters. Even in Fantastic Four, which is a terrible movie,
Right.
he was great in that too.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's been in every single one of Ryan Coogler's movies, and he's been great in all of them. Fruitvale Station. If you haven't seen that, I really recommend it. It's really good. And
And
then
Creed.
Creed. Have you seen Creed?
No, I haven't. It's one of those movies somehow I
Oh,
missed, but I've just
oh.
been told, got to see it. I feel like maybe it was a matter of it's like, oh, another Rocky movie kind of thing. And
I
but no,
know,
I've been
but
told it's
you really got to see it. It's really good. That Ryan Coogler is just proving to be this person who can hop into franchises and really elevate them and elevate the material, which is cool. I think.
oh, definitely. I think based off Black Panther, he's going to get people probably knocking on his door.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he got Creed walking into the Rocky franchise, and now he's done. I mean, I would not be surprised at all if we see a Star Wars movie coming from him
Oh yeah,
at all. I would not be surprised at all, and that would be cool.
that would be good. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But yeah, you have this character, Killmonger, who disagrees with the way that Wakanda has been run, and you have him confront T'Challa, and they have this ritual, and he wins, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising, but it's an interesting turning point in the movie because then it's sort of you're able to elevate all the other characters as well. Because once that happens, it's like the focus changes to other people like Shuri and
Mm-hmm.
Ross and Nakia and all those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they sort of get their time to shine, where they were sort of almost second fiddle in a way because they had to share the screen with Black Panther. But now that they get their own little bit of time as well.
Yeah, I know. It was really interesting. Like the AO character, all this, she was one of the most interesting to me because she really had to battle about, does she take the orders from this new guy and be obedient to country, or does she stay
Yeah.
obedient to T'Challa? I mean, all of them really had to ask this question, but she seemed to be the one that struggled the most with it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And then there
Yeah.
was also the fact that, like, she had to. Later on in the film, we see that she has to take on her. I don't know if it's meant to be her husband. Wakabi was meant to be her husband. They wouldn't really mention it, but there was definitely that connection, and then there
Oh
was that
yeah.
struggle between there too. Yeah, but yeah,
Mhm.
the fact that she had to struggle between the leader, or agreeing with the leader or agreeing with the country was interesting.
Yeah, and the yeah, Wakabi, he struggled as well, like of where his loyalty would lie and what he was going to do, and so that was really interesting. And obviously, his sister and mother are going to be loyal to T'Challa, but I still thought their stories were interesting. Sometimes it got a little cluttered. I'm not going to lie, and I'm like, okay, following all these people, but I'd still rather have that than like the, I guess, alternative. And I'd rather have a movie that maybe I have to see a couple times to really catch everything than like a movie that's just kind of, kind of boring.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I liked seeing them each kind of having to go through their struggles. And we should say that in the ritual, they think that T'Challa has been killed. He
yeah,
falls off of the waterfall or whatever. And so this is the part that started to drag a little bit for me when T'Challa was gone, and I started to get a little sleepy. I was pretty tired I must say the day that I saw it, so that's probably part of it. But the Killmonger, he tells her to first thing to burn all of the flowers, the powerful flowers.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's just worried about them using them against him, you think?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of like, I think it's also sort of saying that he's going to be the leader forever kind of thing as well, maybe. So that idea of longevity, no one else is going to need to use him, only I need him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess it might also be like his plan B, just in case someone tries to go up against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when the Kia, she saves some of the flour.
Yep.
Yeah, and so they go and so Killmonger, he's going to like ship out all these vibranium weapons to all these people around the world, and he's gonna try to like strengthen them or whatever. And at the same time, Nakia, Shuri, Ramonda, and Ross all go to the Jabari tribe to try to seek aid. And Jabari's the people that he had fought at the very beginning of the movie.
They're one of the four, the 5 tribes that went off into the mountains. So in the comics, they sort of explain it that there's sort of 2 religions in Wakanda. One is the Panther religion, and then there was the mountain people who followed the white gorilla sort of religion. So that's sort of why they have a lot of that gorilla motif as well, and it's sort of interesting sort of aesthetic, which I quite liked.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was interesting that these guys were still willing to like help him to a certain extent, despite the fact that they'd beaten him at the beginning of the movie. I don't know. There's sort of an interesting dynamic going on there.
Yeah, it's interesting in the sense that maybe it's a matter of he's the lesser of 2 evils.
Yeah.
He's like, even though they might not agree with him, he's better. He's the better alternative, I guess.
Well, and I guess he didn't kill the guy, at least in the ritual.
Yeah.
You just had let him live, so that's part of it probably too. But they give him some of the herb, and he's able to survive, able to become healed, and he becomes a Black Panther again, and and so then you have basically this final kind of battle section of the movie where T'Challa and Killmonger are fighting, and and Ross is able to stop the weapons from going around the world. Yep. He's able to do that, and so then there's this fighting between like the armies of Killmonger and the people of T'Challa, and this tribe that they've been a part of joins them and fights.
Yeah.
Fights them, and so then you have the sequence with T'Challa and Killmonger fighting, and there's like this train. I guess they're in like the mine.
Yeah, in the mine. Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you think of sort of these sequences?
I liked them, especially like the sort of the fighting in the mine. I thought that was quite interesting in the way that it was sort of changed, like the tempo of it changed. It wasn't just go bang, bang, bang. There was that sort of at the wait when the train went past, and then there was a bit more strategy involved with the vibrational device thing that was on the tracks, things like that. It sort of made it interesting. It wasn't just sort of, punch, changing angles, punch, punch, punch.
Now, a lot of people have been very critical of the CGI in this section, kind of like they were critical of the CGI in Wonder Woman. How did you feel about that?
I didn't really have a big deal. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't really notice it at the time. It's probably, if I went and had like a proper look, I'd probably notice it, but I think it was okay.
Yeah, I was fine with that. I guess I just come to expect it these days. I mean, as long as it doesn't look stupid to me. Like, I thought that the big wolf in Thor Ragnarok looked really dumb. And so I noticed it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, even in Wonder Woman, I was just so engrossed in the story. It didn't matter to me. I don't know. Maybe I give it.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I guess when you're engrossed in it, you don't notice it. But I guess it depends on what kind of critical eye you're looking at it. If if you're enjoying the movie, you don't really care. It shouldn't
Yeah,
matter too much.
that's how I feel. What do you think of the music in the movie? It was kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was sort of hip hop beat kind of thing, and there was a lot of it,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you sort of listen to the accompanying album
Mm-hmm.
by well, curated by Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of fits that vibe though. I reckon it's sort of and it gives it a sort of upbeat kind of beats.
Yeah. Yeah, and it had a little bit of at certain points at least had a little bit of an African feel to
Yeah,
it too, which was kind of cool and different. And it's interesting to see. I mean, this a friend of mine he did a little reaction on the Stardust app with his grandpa. He's African American, and his grandpa was on there, and he was just talking. And his grandpa was in like the kind of the African inspired clothing or whatever.
yep,
And his grandpa was talking about how much the movie meant to him, and you can't deny when somebody when somebody says that, just like that Wonder Woman meant a lot to a lot of women, including myself. And some people would say, well, what about Blade? What about all these other characters? And it's like, yeah, but that's been a long time, and those were different kinds of characters. This
yeah.
wasn't. Those were kind of like I've never seen Blade, but like I think he's kind of an anti-hero, correct?
Yeah, and I guess the difference with this one is it's very like it's Africa
Yeah,
instead of like African American, and then like there's
right.
plenty of African American like characters and action characters, but
Like
there isn't really
Rhodey and
like
characters like that.
yeah, and like even like when Will Smith plays the action role and things like that,
Right.
but there isn't like a movie set in Africa,
Hmm.
and it's sort of 99% of the characters are African,
Yeah.
and it's got all the culture as well, and it's because most movies set in Africa, if you think about it, it's like the white person in Africa kind of very colonial
Yeah.
feel to it. But this is very much Africa, which I mean that's what I found interesting about it as well.
Yeah. And I liked the fact that the movie trusted the characters to not need yeah, there's two white characters in the movie, but like they aren't sort of narrating the movie or guiding the movie. There's tons
Yeah,
of movies that have that where they'll be like it'll be all black cast, but then like the narrator of the movie will be white, or like the you're just like
yeah. So like the Blood Diamond is an example of that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like this is Latino, but the movie The Book of Life, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it, but it really irritated me that it's all about the Dia de los Muertos and
oh yeah,
all these Latino characters, which is so great, Mexican characters, and yet the narrator of the movie is a white tour guide in a
yeah,
museum. You're like, what? Why? Why did that have to be? So I like the fact that they didn't feel any need to like have, I don't know, like they could have easily had like Black Widow appear or something like that, like that would
yeah.
have been really lame. So I like that they trusted their characters, and I think that's why it really meant something to so many people, which is
Oh,
cool.
definitely. And
Mhm.
speaking of like that mentioning, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but there is a lack of those connections to the Marvel universe in the sense
Yeah,
that like like there was bits and pieces, but it wasn't as like, especially like other movies. This
yeah.
one was very much more of its own thing.
It was pretty standalone. You had a few things that to start out the movie, and I think Thor Ragnarok was good with this as well,
Yeah.
because they kind of got all of those things out of the way, and then they could kind of tell their own story, which I really like. And because you had to explain Claw from Avengers: Age of Ultron, and you had to explain the events of Civil War and
Mm.
and Charles' father dying, and that's about it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they were trying to set up something else. It wasn't like
No.
it could have easily been where this movie second half was setting up for Infinity War or something like that, but it wasn't really that kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, there's just a little bit in one of the end credits, but that's really
Yeah,
it.
that's it. But with the end credits, it's sort of kind of expected that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
fine.
was really good. I agree. That was really nice. And I was a little bit surprised. So in this battle in the mines between T'Challa and Killmonger, uh, T'Challa ends up stabbing Killmonger, and they get
Yeah,
this scene with the two of them and him allowing him to kind of go up and see the world of Wakanda one last time, which is before he dies, which was a nice thing. But I was a little bummed just because I like the character so much. I
yeah. You would hope you'd come back.
Yeah, I would have kind of liked to have seen him kind of maybe just like get injured and then like have, I
Or
don't know, maybe
thrown,
more of like a Loki kind of character.
thrown in prison or something like that. Yeah,
And I have heard complained, oh, it's just Thor repeated over again because you have like the two brothers and you have the whatever and the father and I don't care about that at all because some people said that about Wonder Woman. Oh, it's just Captain America, the first movie done over again. And it's like I don't care. Like there's there's archetypal stories in comic books.
yeah. It's
Who
one of those things. It's
cares?
like there's that thin line of similarity, but it's about what you do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, 100%. I agree, 100%.
And then yeah, and they go off in very different directions.
Agreed. And yeah, you don't some characters you don't get to see a ton of, and not every story is kind of finished, but like it's just an introduction to all these things and all these themes. And so, I could really see having a movie just about the three main women. I think
Oh,
that I
definitely,
would
yeah,
totally like to see that. The three younger women.
yeah. And I guess it's like one of those things where if they do when they I don't know if they've announced a sequel, but I think based on box office success,
Oh
they will
yeah.
be doing a sequel, or there's a trilogy will be planned.
Uh-huh.
I think they'll get larger roles again. If
Yeah.
even if they don't get their own movie, they'll be definitely in the next within the trilogy and heavily in it.
Once the carnage from Infinity War is done, then
Yeah,
there'll probably be some roles that need to be filled. Let's put it that way.
oh, yeah,
Uh, so yeah, that's basically how kind of the movie ends. Is with these two people fighting, and then Killmonger, he refuses to be saved by the vibranium,
mm,
and because he doesn't want to be, he says that he wants to die a free man rather than he wants to die like the people who jumped off of the slave ships rather than be made to be slaves. I thought that it was a moving way for his character to die, even though I didn't want him to die.
yeah. It made sense to the character
Mm-hmm.
because he was based on his motivations. Otherwise, all he would have been being is sitting in prison or something like that, where he's essentially has no rights anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I kind of wish he could have been sort of a Loki character, but who knows? Nobody really dies in the Marvel universe,
No,
so we'll see.
in comics, no one. Yeah, that's the thing. In comics, the only person who's ever stayed dead is Uncle Ben.
Yeah, Uncle Ben and Bruce Wayne's parents.
They used to say that it's only Uncle Ben and Bucky, but they brought Bucky back. So
Yeah, and so then he becomes king again, and he decides to follow the example of Eric Killmonger, and he's going to go and start up these centers in Oakland to try
yeah,
to help kids and help people. And so, what do you think of that ending?
yeah, that made sense to me. Yeah, because that was the kind of thing that happened in the comics where he sort of opened up his own foundation and in New York City to help underprivileged children and things like that. So it sort of works within his character, and
Yeah,
I think it's a way of using your power and influence to help people without it's a different kind. It's like being a different kind of hero.
yeah. So yeah, in mid credit scenes, you have T'Challa speaking before the United Nations and revealing who Wakanda is to the world. So
Yeah,
that's pretty exciting. And then your post credit, you see Shuri helping Bucky to recover, because last time we saw him, he was in the like that liquid or whatever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In Wakanda at the end of Civil War.
That's right. Yeah. So, well, that makes sense because I mean I'm pretty sure in the Infinity War trailer you see Bucky in Wakanda as well. So it's like that. It's that moving of the chessboard almost.
Yeah. So yeah, where would Black Panther you think sort of fall for you around as far as a Marvel movie? You think?
In terms of like, yeah, I reckon it would be pretty high. I reckon it's probably somewhere in the top 5, maybe.
Yeah, I did my ranking and I had it at 9, but that was right after I saw it, and so it's hard. I might, the more I see it, I could see it moving up higher, but it's definitely in that top half for sure.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So
I mean, it's a very different movie to the rest of the Marvel movies as well.
Yeah.
I mean, especially since it's like you can tell with the earlier movies, there's like a sort of set formula that the Marvel movies had sort of been known for.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, in a year and a half, really, they've sort of been able to try and break that mold with a lot of different movies.
Yeah.
So it's sort of hard to tell, really, because it's almost like all these new movies are having their own sort of voice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I prefer my Marvel movies to be a little bit sillier, like Thor Ragnarok. It was one of my favorites. It's my favorite since Civil War for sure. I just really love Thor Ragnarok. It was so funny to me, and oh my gosh, and Thor Ragnarok was just like so yummy to me. It was so pretty. There's so many pretty people in Thor Ragnarok that I really enjoyed it. Again, I'm very shallow when viewing these movies. But this one was really pretty too, and I really liked the female characters, and so I'm really excited to see it again, maybe when I'm not quite as tired as I was that time, and to really even dive into it more. But yeah, I gave it an A- in my review. I really liked it. I thought it was really solid.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. It was really enjoyable, and I reckon it's got a lot of rewatchability.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those movies where on repeat views there'll be new layers that reveal, and a bit like an onion, but without the tears.
Oh, there's some tears. There's some tears there.
Not true.
Cool. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for talking about Black Panther with me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
No worries. It was a lot of fun.
And we'll be excited to talk about Infinity War next, I guess. I think that's the next one.
Yeah, in May.
Yeah.
Early May. Yeah.
Because I think that maybe the Deadpool movie is coming out before that, but I'm not going to see that. So we won't do that one, but we will do Infinity War. So how can people find you?
All right. So I can be found at howtolovecomics.com. So we're a website all about helping people get into comics. So if you, for instance, want to get into Black Panther, there's resources on there to help you with that. You can also just shoot me an email, and if you have any questions as well, happy to answer any emails you have. Also find me on Twitter and Facebook at howtolovecomics. And if you want to say that I'm wrong, right, anything like that, come to me directly. Say that my opinions are crap. Happy for you to come at me. It's Trevor Van As at Twitter.
Awesome. I'll have that all in and feel free to come to him with applauses too, agreements too. I'll have that all in the description section, and you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews on YouTube and iTunes, and at Smiling LDS Girl on social media. So check that out. And thanks again. This was really fun to talk about this.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
And let us know in the comment section what you think of Black Panther. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Where are you at on it? And where you think it lies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we will see you all in Infinity War.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.